had become until I experienced it again. And so this support also gave me something I did not expect, which honestly is the confidence to be honest with myself. And as founders, we often push through sickness, we often push through exhaustion and low moments because we feel like everything depends on us. Showing up at full capacity all the time. Everyone hears about hustle culture. And so having someone that I trust and I could be honest and saying, you know what, Caroline, I am not feeling my best today. I'm feeling really sick today. And instead of my business slowing down or falling apart or that big checklist of check ins that I have to get back to, she would step in and tasks would still get done and things still kept moving forward. And that kind of support does not just protect business, it protected me as a human. And it gave me permission to rest when I needed it, to take care of my health, to acknowledge my limits without any fear of being judged. So today, my virtual assistant is the backbone of every new process in my business. When it's something that needs to be built or tested or structured, it always starts with her. And then from there, it grows and stabilizes itself and eventually gets passed on to another team member. I'm so lucky now to say that I have a beautiful team of 14 amazing women also working, and they all are aware that Caroline is that foundation that comes before they start. And that foundation has allowed my businesses to grow in a way that feels sustainable instead of chaotic. What this experience has taught me, really, it's simple. Growth is not a solo journey. Leadership does not mean doing everything yourself. Sometimes the most powerful decision you can make is trusting someone to walk alongside you. And through the confusion, through the clarity, and even every season in between, that partnership has made me a better founder, a better leader, and I believe an even more grounded person. And without Caroline, I would not be where I am today without her. So that's a little bit about my founder journey. Thanks, everyone.
Oh my God, I that
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much.
wonderful. I feel like everyone, or rather, most people right now, uh, most people right now are wishing, oh, I wish I worked for Irene. She's such a good CEO. This is really awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, the first time we spoke about when it was time for the summit, I said no, but Irene is going to be our speaker because you said so much about her. I don't think there are very few founders that I've seen speak about their assistants like that. So I told my team we're definitely getting Irene on board. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
being a wonderful founder. Thank you for understanding the assistant role. And also, I mean, the fact that you said, assistants are not just, they're not, supposed to just take on tasks. They're actually supposed to have a level of trust. Thank you so much for, shining that light on assistants.
Absolutely.
So right now we are going to take questions. I'm sure people have a lot of questions for you. Just going to take a few questions before we move on. So please, thank you. Let's take questions now. Please, if you have any questions for Irene, please share your questions now. She's going to take a few questions and take it from there.
And
I'm
feel
sure.
free to
Yeah, please go
add me
ahead.
on LinkedIn if you want. If anyone wants to add me on LinkedIn, feel free
Yeah,
to. I'm happy to talk to anyone one on one as well, or just send a message back and forth. Definitely.
that is awesome. So her LinkedIn profile and also the link to her company's website and LinkedIn profile is also going to be in the chat. So please connect with her. Are there any questions for Irene before we move on? Any questions? We're just going to give a minute for people to ask, for you to ask your question, and then we'll move on from there. Thank you so much, Irene. I
Thank
mean,
you, Clara.
you are giving a lot of assistance on this call. So much hope when it comes to dealing with founders. Honestly. So,
Thank you.
somebody has a question. She said, "What do you think makes a VA stand out in your perspective?"
Oh, in my perspective, oh, that's so to stand out. Um, their dedication and patience, I would say, in showing that they're willing to show up for the founder or the entrepreneur that they're serving. Because there's a lot of VAs that want to take on so many clients just to be a task admin person. And that's fine, that's where it exists. But for me, a true VA, a really good virtual assistant, has a want to be dedicated to their founder, to understanding what their success means in their books so they can then replicate that success. What boundaries would you recommend EA setting to help them remain effective without overstepping? Oh, that's really good. Establishing a scope of work before you start engaging. What are the things that you want to focus on? And having a very clear set of hours that you're working and being transparent with that. My virtual assistant Caroline, she will always say, Irene, I have 3 hours remaining before the next month. How would you like me to use these 3 hours of my time? And then that keeps me in check of like, okay, even I have assigned 6 tasks, I know of those 6 tasks, these two will be completed in these 3 hours, and then the rest will be completed in the next set of hours. And so that honest and transparent back and forth really helped us. And then establishing a scope of work of what are the things that is her regular assignments that she can expect to do without me looking into it or having to give her guidance. So those are the two things that really helped us. Virtual space. Does she have room for an intern? Definitely love to be part of her team. Oh, that's so sweet. I don't know if Caroline is taking interns, but that's so sweet. That's amazing. And you're in the right room if you're jumping into the space. Clara, I would have the best connections for you.
Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you so much for taking out the time to come and speak to us about the EA Founder Partnership. We truly appreciate that. And we cannot wait to have you in more sections. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to follow and connect with Irene on LinkedIn and across all her social media platforms. A lot of people want to be part of your team. Wow. Looks like you're going to have a lot of new interns. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So I know that you've learned so much from what Irene has shared with us. So just leave an emoji in the chat that actually describes how you're feeling right now, because I'm sure most assistants, Irene has given you some sort of hope to say, oh, not all founders, because most founders don't really understand the role that assistants play. But founders like Irene, they are really, really rare, and we really appreciate her for really understanding and spotlighting the EA role. So thank you. Thank you. I can see some emojis in the chat. All right, awesome. So before we move to our next section, we're going to carry out a little activity, and that is really just to understand for you to understand, how to operate as an assistant from your own end. So a message will be shared to the chat right now, and I would want you as an assistant, an experienced assistant, or even if you're not experienced, if you're just going into the EA role, to basically tell us how you're going to react. So the message will be in the chat in a minute, and let's have a little activity before we move on. Our next speaker is on standby. And please, if you have some people that are trying to join the call and they're not able to join, kindly let them know that we are currently streaming on YouTube, and they can just go over to YouTube and join from there. Yes, thank you. The YouTube page is Boss Behind the Boss. Just type Boss Behind the Boss. The link will also be shared in the group. So if you're part of the group, you should also have that. YouTube page is Boss Behind the Boss. So, quick one. We're going to have our next speaker come up in few minutes. Just a second. We are really trying from our end to resolve the glitch issue. So, back to our activity. So, you get a message from your executive. I'm just going to read it out from my end that says, "Hey, can we shift the investor briefing? Not sure the deck is fine anymore. I talked to Sam last night, and honestly, I don't think he gets the direction. Maybe finance should jump in. Not sure. Just fix it. We need something strong before Tuesday. I'll be in and out of meetings, so just do whatever you think best." One thing I can say for a fact is that as an executive assistant, as an assistant at all, you at one point or the other must have received a message that is like this, that it's not clear. You're not sure what direction to go. What should I do? And most times it usually has the just fix it. So I want to hear from you as an assistant. You can just raise your hand and unmute and speak. So please raise your hand and we'll let you speak. What would you do in this situation? How would you respond to a message like this from your executive? Anybody wants to give us an insight on that? Anybody? Should I pick someone? I know we have a lot of experienced assistants. I mean, I was reading the chat. I saw some people with like 25 years experience, 30 years experience, and the rest of them. So, hi, Elizabeth. Do you want to say something?
Which of the Elizabeth?
You're muted. You're speaking. Okay. So is there anyone that wants to give us an answer to how you solve this as an executive assistant? Like I said, this summit is not just for you to come and listen to the speakers and go. We actually have a lot of practical insights that we're going to be sharing today, because we want you to also learn, practically firsthand how to handle executives. So if you want to share, I mean, what happens to everybody with the 25 years experience and 30 years experience and all of that? Nobody's saying, okay. So the question is, your executive gets out of a meeting, calls you, and gives you a message like this. It's in the chat, but it says, "Hey, can we shift the investors briefing? I'm not sure the deck is fine anymore. I talked to Sam last night, but honestly, I don't think he gets the direction. Maybe finance should jump in. I'm not sure. Just fix it. We need something strong before Tuesday. I'll be in and out of meetings, so just do whatever you think is best." So yeah, that's it. Who was asking the question? So anybody wants to? You asked David to be specific. Okay, got it. I'll review the deck, align with finance, and clarify direction with Sam today. I'll send you a revised. Awesome. I'll send you a revised briefing and timeline before end of the day. So Tuesday stays solid. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Anybody wants to share more so that we can all learn? We have our next speaker on standby, and we're moving to the next section. We have 1 minute to share our responses and then move to the next section. Okay, somebody says, wow, first, you need to definitely make sure you know the direction. If you need finance, connect to them ASAP to collect what detail is needed or sought. If it's just the slide deck, that's not too big a deal to fix. He's panicked, but you don't need to be. Awesome. That's really awesome. You cannot be panicked as an executive assistant when your executive is freaking out. You're actually supposed to be the one, the calm in the storm, really. Okay, somebody says, understood. I'll handle it. I'll review the deck today, make sure it matches the right direction, and involve finance if needed. If we need to move briefing, I'll suggest a new time. I'll have a strong version ready before Tuesday and will update you. Very important. Having timelines and also sharing updates to your executive. That is also very, very important. Thank you so much for everyone sharing. If you want to still share your own opinion, please go ahead. Somebody says, first thing, I will assure my executive that everything will be taken care of without him having to follow up. I'm sure every executive wants that. Nobody wants to have to follow up a couple of times or have to remind you of something that you should do. Somebody says it speaks that David is not confident as a shift is in order. So I'll reschedule and promptly follow up with all stakeholders and ensure a strong version is ready on or before Tuesday. All right. Thank you so much. Somebody says clarity is needed for proper response and execution. I agree. But most times, executives would just expect you to read their minds. But then again, there's nothing wrong in asking questions. Also very important to ensure that you ask questions to get clarity before you take on any task. All right. So now we are moving to our next speaker. And basically, we're going to be talking about something that affects every executive assistant, and that is how the role is evolving globally. This is very, very important because we all know that the EA job is no longer about tax. We said it a couple of times, but I actually need us to understand that it's beyond just tax. It's more of trust and clarity. The role has evolved, and it's actually just assistants who grow, who are willing to grow, that would take on that. And the person leading this conversation today, is someone who embodies stability in fast-moving environments. She's known across global network as a true chaos tamer. She helps leaders and teams stay focused, grounded, and aligned. She's passionate about elevating administrative professionals and actively contributes to the community that empowers EAs worldwide. She brings honesty, experience, and clarity. That is exactly what the summit stands for. And for the next 15 minutes, she's going to be showing us how the EA role is shifting worldwide and what we must do to rise with it. Please welcome Jacelyn. Hi, Jacelyn.
Hey, hi everyone.
Hi, so nice to
Hello,
meet you.
thanks, Clara.
Hi.
Hello, hi everyone. Happy to be here.
I know it's really early for you right now. I really appreciate
Oh,
you taking
yes.
the time to
Yes,
join us.
I'm actually. Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm actually on vacation, so it's quite early my time. But honestly, when this summit invited me to speak about the evolution of the EA role, I knew I must join this summit. And thank you so much, Clara, for your invitation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We can't wait to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And let me be upfront. I'm not here to claim that, I understand every country or every EA market. I can only speak from what I see in Singapore, what I've learned across Southeast Asia, and what I hear from the global EA communities I work with. But even from my little corner of the world, I can tell you the shift is clear. The EA role is changing in terms of pace, expectation, influence, and the way leaders work with us. So, it's very interesting, even though we come from all different countries. When I talk to EA across the globe, the directions feel similar, such as, we are all facing the same complexity. We are being pushed to grow beyond tasks. We are all adapting to technology and AI shaping our world. So I'm really excited to be here. I can go on, right? Talking about the evolution, the change, the future of the EA.
Yes, please. Yes, please. You can go on.
Yeah. So something very interesting that I would like to share. I recently I had a conversation with a chief of staff in Singapore. We are talking about the future of our profession, and she said something that really shook me in a good way. She told me, yes, EA will still bring coffee. Yes, you will still pick up lunch, but that cannot be the center of the role anymore. And I can tell you she's right. What she sees in her CEO's office, because she's a chief of staff, so she has an executive assistant as well to the CEO. So the two of them work very closely together. And what she's seeing is that the EA of the future is shifting from doing to understanding, not just managing tasks, but actually managing context. She shared with me that the biggest pain point is helping the CEO EA to prioritize meetings, not because the EA can't do it, but because she doesn't have the business context and everything looks urgent. Because she said if an EA can understand the business, she will be saving hours, because then the CEO will not, the COS will not be the one helping her to, to sort of move some of the meeting blocks, because the EA doesn't know the context of the business. That's why sometimes the chief of staff will have to step in and tell the EA, what are some of the meetings that can be moved? What are some of the urgent meetings that need to move up from the calendar? That is some of the things that she's seeing in the future of the EA, to be able to not just move boxes on calendar, but also someone who knows why those boxes matter. The future EA is someone who can also look at 2 meetings and tell right away which meeting help the business move forward, which meeting can shift, and which meeting must stay. I would say that the kind of EA save their executive hours, not just minutes, and the kind of EA becomes a real partner even without, you doesn't need a fancy title, but because you know how to save hours for your CEO, for your executive, so it makes the partnership even more, even stronger. That is the kind of the new value of EA. So I want to be honest, even for me, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still learning how the business works. I'm still building my judgment. I'm still figuring out why some meetings matter more than the others. Some days I get it right, and some days I don't. And to me, that is okay, because the role is not about being perfect. It's about growing. It's about seeing a little more each year. So I would say that is the future and the new value of EA. The other thing that we often don't talk about is influence without authority. You know, right, Clara, we EAs, we don't control budget, we don't manage teams, neither do we sign off decision, but we do play a part in how work flows. So our influence is often built on trust, credibility, and how we manage or how we guide people without a title behind us. So, and with AI stepping in, involving in our world, AI cannot build trust, AI cannot manage human emotion, AI definitely cannot influence without authority, but we can. So I would say that in the future, this soft power becomes our real currency. So I would say influence without a title is actually very important. So far, is there anyone and having any questions? Feel free to pop in the chat box.
Yes, please, if you have any questions from just I think you can actually go ahead and we would have questions at the end. So please, if you have any questions, you can start dropping them. Jesslyn can decide to pick them along the way, or so yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, the other thing, okay, sure. The other thing that I would like to share is, everyone say that you have to be strategic. This word is used around so loosely around the internet. I would say that when we talk about EAs becoming strategic, some people panic because they think strategy means becoming a mini CEO. I would say it doesn't, and strategy is not one shape. Strategy can look like you are anticipating, judgment, asking better questions, seeing patterns before others do, or even just by removing noise so your leader can focus. You don't need to understand every numbers in the business to be strategic, but you do need to leave your gaze above task. So it's more about, it's less of a thinker, more of a, you're not just a doer, you're more of a thinker. So you anticipate needs, you ask better questions. And the other thing that what we can't run away is, AI is already here. So our value sits, I mean, sometimes, we are competing with tools, but if our values sit in judgment, context, relationship, that will make a very big difference. I also want to talk about something I hear from many EAs, the idea of becoming, chief of staff one day. But I'm not too sure how many of you actually seen, take a look at the new global skills matrix. I mean, the previous global skills matrix, but now they are launching a new one. Chief of staff is actually not at EA level up. Some is a completely different role, different skill, different purpose, different expectation. Some EA may move towards it, yes, but it's not a natural step up. It's not a natural step for everyone. And that is okay because a chief of staff needs things like deep understanding of the business, making judgment calls, looking at risk, shaping with a lot of gray areas. This is a very big shift from being an EA. You have to grow into it slowly, step by step. It takes time, learning, a lot of curiosity. It's a long journey. The key message I would like to bring is EA and chief of staff are both great roles, just different. One is not higher or better. They simply serve different needs in a company. So what does this global EA look like in 2026 and beyond? I would say we are not just keeping up anymore. We will be looking up. Keeping up today means trying to learn every new AI tools, new update, with learning new system. And honestly, it never ends. But looking up is a different concept. Looking up is understand why you need the tool. Keeping up is more like you are reacting. Looking up is thinking ahead. So I would say these two are actually very different. And this is where the future EA is going. It's less about running, more noticing, less doing, more thinking. And also less pressure, more purpose. I would say that every one of us here has a chance to step into the future EA role. All we have to do is to lift our gaze, show our work, use our voice, and let ourselves be seen. Because our value grows the moment we stop hiding it. Thank you. I hope some of you can relate to what I said.
Thank you so much, Jesslyn. I'm sure a lot of people can actually relate to what you've said so far. Somebody has a question in the chat. She says, what is a distinctive difference between chief of staff and an executive assistant?
That's a very great question. I would say that chief of staff is more like you are shaping plans across the whole company, not just one leader. And you make judgment calls, not as if like A doesn't make judgment call, but the judgment call which chief of staff needs to make will actually impact across different business layers. And a chief of staff needs to have a deep understanding of the business. And that requires you a lot of learning, a lot of a lot of curiosity. It's a long journey. So it's never easy to move from an executive assistant role to being a chief of staff. Because for a chief of staff, I would say that you need to look at different layers of the business. Yeah. So I would say that it's a difference between a chief of staff and an EA. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Who asked the question?
Francis.
Yeah, Francis, does that answer your question? All right, thanks.
Oh yes, I also agree with Angela Parker from Germany. I've seen a lot of companies in the Anglo-Saxon regions naming position chief of staff as a form of promotion. Yeah, actually that is quite true.
All right, we have another question actually. Somebody says, what skills would you say would separate average EAs from exceptional ones in the next few years?
Mm. I would say what skills I would say that if an EA is able to understand the business acumen and the priorities in the business itself, it would definitely you will it will be kind of be you'll separate yourself from being an average EA because you understand the business acumen. I would say that is that would be an exceptional one. And I would say that is also the future of an EA. Yeah. And that is very important because you are saving leaders hours, not just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like we
Yeah.
said, when we started, that the EA role is evolving. So it's not just for you to carry out regular tasks. You also have to
Yeah.
understand the business. You also need to understand what's going on. That's really what's the prayer. I totally agree with you, Jace. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
exactly. Thank
Yeah.
you, Clara.
Thank you so much for joining this section today.
Thank
You can
you.
connect with Jesslyn on LinkedIn and through our
Yes.
social media platform in the chat. Her LinkedIn profile is there and her website as well. Please ensure to connect with her. And thank you so much, Jace. Thank you for joining us. And we hope to have you in our subsequent sections. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you, everyone.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm sure we've learned a lot from. Okay, somebody has a question for Jess. Okay, we'll just take your question. Jess, are you still here? Somebody has a question for you.
Oh, yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, somebody says, I've seen robots doing almost everything. How sustainable is the EA role?
Oh, yeah. With the AI stepping in and whatnot, right? AI becomes stronger at scheduling or even, typing up emails, that kind of thing. So, how sustainable is the EA role? I would say that our value still sits in judgment and also relationship with our leader. So that will separate us from robots because we are humans. And I would say people still prefer human interaction more than, actually talking to a robot. That's what I feel. Yeah. And I want to share something interesting. Recently I had a conversation with a colleague. He was telling me, can you imagine when in the near future, every time when you answer a call, when you call a hotline, customer service, and the robot pick up your phone, how would you feel? I mean, for me, I would rather speak to a human being than actually speaking to a robot. So I would say that the human interaction is still there. AI can never replace us, but of course, we have to also advance our own skills. You also have to keep moving up, keep advancing in our own skills so that we don't get replaced. Because AI is getting so much advanced. So it is good to have our skills brush up every now and then to keep ourselves updated as well. Thank you, Clara.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jace. Thank you for
Thank you.
that. Thank you. All right. So yeah, somebody's asking for so her LinkedIn profile is actually in the chat. Okay, somebody has a message. So her LinkedIn profile is actually in the chat. So please connect with her via LinkedIn. Now we are moving over to our next speaker. We've heard about the global evolution of the EA role, and now we want to also learn about how to build global competence from Africa. A lot of EAs here actually from Africa. So our next speaker is someone who has lived global competence, talk about it on every level. And she has supported founders and board members across the US, UAE, and Africa. She has executed international events, managed brand communications, and driven strategic marketing across multiple industries. She mentors women and youth, trains digital talents, co-leads the She Who Builds campaign, convenes LinkedIn local offer, and empowers thousands through community learning. And she's also recognized as a top 10 Nigerian LinkedIn growth strategist and a global branding expert. For the next 15 minutes, she's about to break down what it really takes to build a global EA presence. Please make some noise for Chidera Judith. Hi, Chidera.
Hi, Clara.
Hi, so lovely to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
It's
You
my
look
pleasure.
so
Thank you
good.
for having me. Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And I am so happy to be here, especially because I am very, very interested in talking about today's topic. So just react with your favorite emojis if you can hear me clearly, and then we'll get right into it. Thank you. Thank you so much. So today's topic is on building competence, building global competence from Africa. But before we delve into the topic fully, I think it is important for us to be able to explain what competence is all about, what global competence is all about. You know, when people mention competence, which is very typical for us as professionals, what comes to mind is being able to do your job well. But when it comes to EAs, VAs, admin assistants, personal assistants, global competence or competence, first off, is a different thing altogether. So you are seen as a competent EA or a competent virtual assistant if you are able to effectively manage operational responsibilities for your clients or your executive leaders in such a way that you help them reduce pressure, you help them reduce risk, and you also help them reduce decision fatigue. So if you have not heard this before now, I want to let you know that as an executive assistant or as a virtual assistant, you are the second brain of your CEO or your executive leader, which means that your task is not independent of your of your CEO. You don't have to wait on them to give you tasks before you actually carry out your job. Your job is actually to, while carrying out those tasks, managing tasks, and also anticipate, right? So that is competence. So now when we take it a step further, and then we talk about global competence. That's global competence is everything competence is. But this time around, we are considering culture, we are considering time zone, we are considering power dynamics, we are considering system differences. Yes. So in terms of system differences, we look at communication, for instance. Now, different organizations, right? Different organizations across various countries have different ways that they run. They have different system or systems that are peculiar to their own organizations. I'll give you an instance. Communication is a system. Communication is a system in an organization. When I started working with my clients in the US, I got to know that individuals in their let's say early 40s or early 50s, like the older individuals, rarely communicate with WhatsApp. You know, this thing that we do, we can easily drop messages for our bosses, our clients on WhatsApp, on Skype, and all. But for those in the US, I mean, they rarely communicate on WhatsApp. So what we did, or what became our major means of communication, was Skype. We're communicating with Zoom, and then we're also communicating on Facebook as well. I mean, they are Facebook people rather than, like, there are more Facebook people than WhatsApp people, right? So that is communication. That's a system. Whereas I worked with another client that, of course, like I said, most of you must have experienced that basically WhatsApp, I mean the primary means of the primary means of communication on any social media platform is WhatsApp for them. So that is system difference. That is you being able to understand that system, right, and working with that. That's an example. Another example of system difference for organization can be legal practices, the way they manage their legal activities, from your onboarding to your offboarding, how they bring in clients, how they sign proposals, how they sign deals, and so on and so forth, right? Then when you now talk about time zones, as a competent global competent executive assistant or virtual assistant, you need to also be mindful of time zones of the clients you're working for, right? So for instance, within Africa, we have Tanzania, for instance, operates in the EST time zone. Nigeria operates in the typical Wat time zone. It means that Tanzania is 2 hours ahead of us, right? So that's a different time zone. That's like there's a 2 hour difference. And then when you now come to India, India is 4 hours, 30 minutes ahead of us. Or you go to United States is 6 hours behind us. So how do you manage all this time as a competent EA? We'll go to that, right? Is you being able to understand your calendar, you being able to plan your time, plan your activities in such a way that they do not clash, right? So a competent EA takes note of all of these things. Culture, takes note of time zone, takes note of power dynamics, take note of system differences as well, right? So moving forward, how can your CEO assess you as a competent EA, or what does a typical CEO look out for them to be able to say, okay, this person is competent, this person is globally competent. Now, first off, it's basically how they feel when they work with you. So I know some of you, when I say what are those things that would make you competent, or that would make anyone assess you as competent, what might come to your mind would be portfolio, your resume, your online activity, your branding, and all those things are good. I mean, I'm a very big fan of all of that. But after that, the next thing is the work, right? That's the main thing that actually keeps you in the field, that gives you the most relevance. So how do they aside all of those things, how do they assess you as someone who is really competent in the field? It is how they feel with working with you. Can they trust you? Can they trust you with their brand? Can they delegate things to you without having to micromanage? There is something more. If you've noticed, I don't know how many persons have had this experience, but most times when you are hired newly as an executive assistant or a virtual assistant in an organization, at the beginning little there's always this little mistrust, not to talk of when you are in Africa and then your client is in another time zone or in another country or continent entirely. Distance is a very big barrier. So they can't even see you. This is not where you have to come to the office and then they see you, they monitor what you do. So it's just you guys communicating on screen, right? So there's always that distrust. And I had this experience with my clients. Even if this is what happened. I started working with this client. I was working with her on a personal level. So she decided, like, or she said I should join her organization as her executive assistant as well. So and it happened that in this organization, she isn't just the only stakeholder. So I have worked with her. She knows my capacity, she trusts me, she knows what I can do. But these other stakeholders, I'm being introduced to them. They do not know what I can do. They do not know my capacity. So for the first month, while working with them, there was this subtle micro management during that time. There was this subtle mistrust. So I had to make sure that I stand my ground. I had to make sure that I was really good, stay tight on making sure that I deliver good results for me to be able to entirely gain their trust, which is normal. If for instance, it's really normal for like a CEO at the beginning not to trust you. Although there are people that are just that free, they just hire you and then they trust you, they know you, they just believe in you and look out for you to do the right thing. But what I'm trying to say is that there's other CEOs or clients that might not fully trust you, even if they don't say it, but they are still looking out for you to be able to prove yourself to them, for them to know, okay, yeah, this person can handle this brand. So how do they feel? Back to what I was saying, when your clients get to that point where they can easily trust you, where there is like a big relief when it comes to working with you, that's the highest compliment an EA or VA can get. That's the best part of competence. When they know your turnaround time is really very fast. That's the best part of compliment. Or sorry, that's the best highest form of compliment, and that is the best part of competence as an executive assistant, right? So okay, I'm checking my time. I'm trying to be fast. So now let me move to the main thing, which is the systems, the habits, the practices that you need to keep in order to be able to become build yourself as a competent executive assistant or virtual assistant. The first and the basic thing is managing your personal time. You see, as after everything that you're going to listen to in this summit, or everything that you have learned so far as an executive assistant or virtual assistant, or you would still learn, at the end of the day, if you are unable to manage your time, like your personal time, your time as a person, you would struggle. You struggle as a virtual assistant or an executive assistant. You should be, if especially when you are working with people from different time zones, you should be able to have time. You should have time where you should there should be a time that is allocated for your personal work and a time that is also allocated for your professional work, right? So for instance, you're working with a client in the United States of America and the person is on CST time zone, which is 6 hours behind what. Let's say you're on the what time zone. So you know the typical morning or the typical day for your client or your executive leader begins by 12 p.m. What, because that's like 6 a.m. their time. So from 6 a.m. what, like when you're 6 a.m. your time to 12 p.m. your time before your client comes online, what are you doing? What kind of tasks do you delegate? Basically, it will be tasks that do not necessarily need their presence, things that you need to get done before they even come online. So you know, whenever immediately they come online or they are active, you're submitting your report or you guys are going over something important or you're even moving on to another task. So being able to master your own personal time, how it works for you. See, if you don't manage your time as an executive assistant, you will burn out. Like you will burn out, especially when especially if you're the type of person who wants to manage more than one client. I know there is that part of delegation, but even when you are delegating, you still need to be able to be in control of yourself before you can even manage another person's own. So master your time. That's like the first and basic thing that would help you whatever time zone you're working in. So long as you're able to manage your time, it would really help you. Another thing is make sure, okay, when doing it, make sure, okay, I was saying when why I wrote something down. I said why mastering your time or dividing your time, make sure you do it according to the peculiarity of your work. Just like the example I gave for CST, you know that your client is 6 hours ahead. So of course you do the work between that 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. So what if you're working with an Indian client, for instance, who is 4 hours, 30 minutes ahead of you? How do you begin your day? So because you know, if you're waking up by 6 or if your day is beginning by 7, that's like 11:30 or 12 o'clock their time. So 12 o'clock, that's in the afternoon their time, right? 12 p.m. their time. So how do you do that? It means that based on what the agreement or your mode of operation with your clients, you should have like a time where you should have like a time where you know they don't need you. Like I mean, you don't need their presence. You can easily work, and then when you wake up in the morning, when their time is already up, you can just ask them maybe if you guys have something to go over, you can, both of you can go over it, and then you continue, why they continue, like why they go ahead with their own day. So it's just like according to the peculiarity of your work, according to your operations, according to the tasks that you have at hand, you should be able to master your time. Then set personal deadlines. Now I'm going to talk about this because it is I know someone who came to me recently, and then she was complaining about how she fails to meet deadlines. So this is very important. Setting personal deadline is very important in ensuring that you are on time with your work. If, for instance, you're given a task and then you're asked to finish that task by 4 p.m., or you're managing a project, you're supposed to submit a report by 4 p.m. what? Now, as a person, as like a very smart or competent executive assistant, you should give a personal deadline to yourself on that particular task that allows like 1 hour to 2 hours difference, or like allows 1 hour to 2 hours time before the main time. What do I mean? If you're supposed to submit a report by 4 p.m., you should give yourself a deadline to finish that report by 2 p.m. or by 3 p.m. Let that report be ready. You can submit if you want, or you can wait in the time. But what that allows is giving time or space for contingencies or emergency situations or delay that might happen before you submit. Maybe one team member is dragging the whole thing, or something just comes up and we are not able to compile all of them on time. So set personal deadlines for any tasks that you're giving. Then always prioritize your tasks. In prioritizing your tasks, you should know what you're taking in, and what you should not, and what you can keep on hold. So you're not supposed to, like, you're an EA, I know your work spans across almost all departments in the organization. You are into core operations. One way or another, you'll be involved in marketing, logistics, and all of that. But it is not everything that comes to your desk in a day that you accept and then you want to jump into. You should be able to prioritize tasks that can wait, tasks that need to be done now, and tasks that you don't even need to accept in the first place, right? Tasks that, in that part where we have parts where we talk about tasks that you don't need to accept, there is not everything that comes to your desk that is what your role as an EA or VA is basically is how do I put this? It is focused on your executive assistant, on your executive leader. It is focused on your clients. So when they are outside tasks, maybe could not even be within work, something that is not just relating to work, something that is hindering your delivery or efficiency, please, you don't have to say yes to everything, right? So learn to prioritize tasks. Then another thing is, another habit is trying to solve problems before reporting needs. This is one of the hacks that has helped me so far in building competence in my workplace. Reporting problems, trying to solve problems before reporting them. So I'm someone who, before, if something goes wrong in the organization, before I go to my executive leader to say, oh, hi, this is what happened and we couldn't do this, I would try every means possible to make sure I solve that problem, so that whenever I'm going to my executive leader, I'm saying, hi, this is what happened, we couldn't do this, but this is an alternative means, right? That builds competence, that builds independence, that makes them trust you more, that makes them believe that you can handle it, you can do it. They don't need to think, they don't need to micromanage you, right? So try to solve problems before reporting them. Then another thing is document everything. When you talk about documenting things or documentation as an executive assistant or a virtual assistant, we see it in two ways. First is documenting your wins, documenting your experiences, just for proof. Your portfolio must be updated, your resume, your LinkedIn, your social media platforms. That's one part. That's when we talk about branding, but that's not what we are here for. This part is what I'm saying now is documenting within your workspace. So every process, every key information, every major decision that has been made, make sure you document. If, for instance, you're able to solve a problem came up and then you're able to solve that problem, make sure you document how you solved that problem. I have a folder for that. Make sure you document how you solve that problem for future reasons. Something might happen again and you have to refer back to that. So make sure you learn to document. Another thing is, another bonus thing under this is taking numbers, like learn to collect contacts. Anyone you come across as an EA in the course of your job as an executive assistant, learn to network with them, because you might find yourself in a room and then you need something that someone that knows someone can help you get it. So all you just need to do is send a text, pick your phone, call, hi, I'm the executive assistant for this, we met at this, and then you guys talk about it. Oh, I need your help on this, it's very urgent and all of that. So it all boils down to documentation. Learn to document processes, learn to document people you meet, learn to document key information within the organization and even outside the organization. Then learn to also document major decisions that are made within the organization, right? Then the next thing is being adaptable. So this is in the aspect of working, the things that you meet when you work, like the work culture. So when you're introduced to a new organization, you already know that you're automatically introduced to a new work culture. Their own system or their culture is basically different, might be different from what you've known or what you knew before. So learning to be adaptable, learning to learn fast, like, of course, like the EA role, one of the major mindset of being an EA is learning mindset, because honestly, you learn every day. I mean, your job introduces you to different people. Today, you're managing a project, maybe you're managing an event. In the course of managing an event, you meet different people, you learn from them, you interact with them. Tomorrow, you might be managing, you might be in the board meeting, you also learn from that. Next time, you might be managing a team to get a task done. Like, there are so many things that you do as an executive assistant or a virtual assistant, and in the course of that, you learn. Like, in the course of that, you have to learn, you have to be adaptable. In the other part, when it comes to adaptability, the next thing is being adaptable to tools as well. I know our basic tools are Notion, Asana, Zoom, Loom, Canva, Google Meet, Microsoft, Slack, and all of that. But there are organizations that would also introduce you, that might also introduce you to new tools. I've said this before. In one of the roles that I took, the organization where the in that organization, I was introduced to a tool that is not so popular. Like, people do not use it as much as other tools that we have right now. So, and that tool happened to be the core of the organization, like the primary tool for that organization. So you have to learn, right? So being adaptable is also another thing, that another practice that would help you. And then finally, we'll talk about picking the calm in chaos mindsets. Calm in chaos mindset. Sorry, this song Joy in Chaos came to my mind. But what do I mean? So when you're faced with a problem within the organization, something came up and things didn't go as you planned. So that mindset, adopting that mindset of staying calm would actually help you, not just you, but also helps your executive assistant. I worked with an executive leader, a woman that she gets so paranoid when things are not going the way they want, the way she wants, or when things just go wrong. She gets so paranoid. So imagine your boss is paranoid, even if they might not tell you, but you just see it, you learn it from their tone, from the way they are communicating. You just know, oh, this person is already not fit. She's not in her right self right now. So imagine that your boss is paranoid, you're also paranoid. So who is going to solve the problem? I mean, you will solve the problem, but at that time, one person needs to be in the same, one person needs to be sane, one person needs to be calm to navigate the problem. So that's why I said at the beginning, that you are actually the second brain of your CEO. Anything concerning professional activity, anything that has to do with their professional life, it is wholesomely your responsibility, right? So it means that at that time you need to also be able to be their partner at that time, right? So when things are not going the way you want or the way it's supposed to, now you as the executive assistant comes in to make sure that you try to remedy the situation, solutions you can prefer, whatever you can do to make sure that at least everything goes well. Then, in the aspect of being calm, you're also able to spot in the process of being calm. Rather, you're also able to spot problems, or you're able to spot mistakes or like mistakes that your client or your executive leader might make or might not be seeing because they are not at that time in their right frame of mind, or because at that time they are not just focused on that, right? So that is very important. And then this is not, I didn't write this down, but I'm just going to say this and then I conclude. I believe my time is up. So I wanted to say that what was this I wanted to say right now? Okay, I wanted to say that when it comes to mistakes, or when it comes to your CEOs, it is important for you to be able to speak up as an executive assistant. I know some of us know this, but there are executive assistants, there are executives that you work with, and then they might not give you that room at first to express yourself as you want. Now, this is exactly what I mean. I mean, when it is not going well, even if you know it is going to hurt their feeling, so long as it is for the good of the organization, it is important for you to be able to speak up as an executive assistant, because at the end of the day, if you don't, something will go wrong, right? So it's being a globally competent executive assistant, and whether in Africa or any part of the world, because the beautiful thing about working as an EA is that we all relate. I mean, you can get on a call with an executive assistant in the US, or you can get on a call with an executive assistant in India or in Japan, and their experience is almost similar to yours, because we are all in the same shoes. Like, we relate. They are speaking, and then you're saying, oh yes, yes, it's true, I've experienced that. Yeah. So the beautiful thing about being an EA, a globally competent EA, is that first off, you know that you understand yourself. Like, you understand the importance of your role, how strategic your role is, that you are a strategic partner to your CEO, that your role is not dependent on them. You don't have to wait on them for you to carry out tasks. I mean, you should be able to anticipate, you should be proactive, you should be able to prioritize and all of that. And the fact that you can be able to exude confidence in your work, confidence in how you manage problems, confidence in how you manage your clients, confidence in how you speak up. And finally, you're also able to you have everything in control. You're able to manage not just your clients, but also able to manage yourself. So at the end of the day, nobody's losing. While you're managing your clients, you are not losing, you're not getting burnt out and all, right? So I think I have quickly let you know that it is very important. It is very possible for you to, yeah, quickly actually, it's very important for you to build global competence from any part of the world that you are. And it just begins with you, begins with your mindset, begins with your confidence, begins with your practices, how you manage yourself, how you see yourself, how you carry yourself, and how you carry out your responsibilities as an EA. Thank you so much for having me, everyone.
Thank you so much, Chidera. This is awesome. I mean, you can tell from the reaction. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. That was really detailed. You quickly quickly told us what it means to build global confidence. This is really excellent. Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom with us. We'll take questions now. So if you have any question for Chidera, please drop it in the chat. And also, you can connect with her on LinkedIn. Chidera is one of the most amazing executive assistants out there. So you definitely want to connect with her on LinkedIn and learn so much from the wisdom that she has to share with everyone. So please share your chats in the comments section. And I'm trying to read a message. Somebody says, Chidera, this is an excellent and practical presentation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise. Everything you have said mirrors my experience as an EA of 30 years. Always need to be learning as every executive has their own. Okay, we have more messages. Okay, many times to understand what they really need even when they can't see themselves accurately. Yes, that's true actually. All right. Yeah, definitely the recording will be provided. Please, if you have any questions for Chidera, this is the time to drop it. Also, the streaming link has been shared to the various groups. So please, if you know anyone, I mean, Zoom has really been acting up with us since the summit started, but of course, we'll keep going regardless. So if you know anyone that's trying to join the Zoom link, please share the YouTube streaming link with them and have them join via YouTube. We'll also take questions from YouTube if we have any. So thank you so much. Any questions for Chidera? 1 minute before we close that. All right, Wumi, I can see your hands. Or do you have a question for Chidera? Hi, Wumi. Okay, I think that was a mistake or something. All right. Somebody says, what's one thing African EAs should stop doing if they want global roles? Chidera, did you get that?
Yes, there are so many things actually, but let me just talk about it. The first thing is ChatGPT will use the word shrink. So maybe I should use the word shrink. Shrinking yourself or shrinking your role as an executive assistant. What do I mean? First off, I've interacted with a lot of executive assistants in Nigeria, and I've also talked to some executive assistants I met in Tanzania. And one of the things that I noticed is that so many people, so many EAs out there are not actually building their brand. They are not actually being, they're not really prioritizing their brand building, their visibility. They just see it as their executive assistant and the role is just there, right? So the first thing I think that African executive assistants should stop doing in order to get global roles is to stop limiting themselves. Put yourself out there. That's why you see that we have very limited executive assistant summit. I love what Clara did. I mean, I love this summit a lot. We have very limited executive assistant summits out there, and that's because of so many EAs are not coming up to speak, to talk, to show themselves, to learn, to teach others, to project themselves out there. So the first thing is actually for you to put yourself out there as an executive assistant. Another thing is your image, your mindset, like confidence or mindset level. Some EAs have reduced themselves to, or they have reduced their mindset to seeing themselves as glorified errand boys or girls in the organization, which is not supposed to be. I was a social media manager before I became an executive assistant. And I became an executive assistant not just because of demand, but because I really loved it. I mean, the way I see executive assistants, or the typical way you should see being an executive assistant is like a prideful role, a role that makes you roll with key stakeholders in the company, makes you speak with them, gives you access, gives you free mentorship. Sometimes working with your boss actually gives you free mentorship because you learn from them. When you don't get things right, they correct you. When you don't know some, I mean, you meet with them, you get access to their network and all of that. So carry yourself well. I mean, it's not a small thing to be an executive assistant. So your mindset is very important. Exude confidence in your role, and also exude confidence in how you also carry out your tasks, right? Let people not see executive assistants as like a role that they can easily not do without. I mean, the joy of having someone as your executive assistant is the fact that that person can literally handle what they need to handle for you in your, like, handle your brand, handle your organization and all. So I think these are, let me stop here. Like, these are two major things that African executive assistants should work on. Work on your mindset, your confidence, and then work on how you project yourself out there. Visibility is really very important, very, very important.
Right, thank you, Chidera. I hope that answers your question. So we have three more questions here, and we'll just quickly take them. Someone says, with all these checks and balance, how does one get a job in the global market as a Nigerian or African?
So it's still, first off, what I mentioned, the being visible. That's the first thing, right? Building your brand. Branding is something that, branding for EA is something I could talk about all day, but I'm not here to talk about, I came here to talk about competence. But for this question, building your brand as an executive assistant, if I say, as an executive assistant, when a role comes up, and you're asked to submit your portfolio, what is the strength of your portfolio? If you're asked to submit your resume, what is the strength of your resume? How well do you document? How well, something I failed to mention, which is very important, how well do you take note of your KPIs? You know, KPI is very important as an executive assistant. How was the organization when you came in? And how was it 6 months after you were working with them, or 1 year after you were working with them, right? So documenting your KPI, very, very important. So these are the things that people want to see. In the global market, for you to be able to attract audience, first off, you have to be visible. And you can only be visible when you put yourself out there, not just even building on LinkedIn or applying for jobs on Upwork, but even writing proposals to organizations, writing proposals to executives, to people that you want to work with. These are very good ways you can do. Another thing I would say is taking your certification very seriously. I know I've seen a role that the person was disqualified because she didn't have any EA certification at all. So taking your, like, at least just have, for a start, have at least, let's start with one certification before you can even improve yourself in other aspects, right? Get other certifications as you go. So taking your certification as an executive assistant very seriously. And the final one is the bane of everything we discussed here, which is competence. To be honest, like, since I started working as an executive assistant, I don't think there is anyone I've gotten from applying for a job. Like, I've not I've not gotten a role because I applied for it. It's been referrals. Hi, Dara, can you do this? I have an executive assistant role. I need you to help me with, and that's how it is. So competence, actually, competence, building competence in the one that you have within Nigeria. You have an executive assistant role. You're able to build it. You're able to show people, let people know this is what you do. Let people know the extent of your work, the quality of your work. Put it out there that you are an executive assistant. Put it out there that this is what you do. These are the knowledge you have. This is the depth of your skill. Let people see you as, that's it. It's just all about putting yourself out there. And then when things like this come up, when roles for executive assistants come up, even when you apply and somebody looks at your profile or views your resume or your portfolio, they can see the strength already before applying, right? Then something else is, when you hop on discovery calls, when you hop on interviews with your clients, learn also the importance of being confident, right? Speaking up, talking. I know something I've learned with Westerners, for instance, is that they actually believe what they see. I'm not like once if you how do I put this? When you're on a call, you're speaking with your client, a potential client, how you project yourself, how you speak about your work, how you speak about the passion of your work actually matters. They see all these things. They want to feel that they want to be able is how you speak. That's how they connect with you. So executive assistant role is peculiar because at least for a social media, we just need to see your resume and your portfolio, and we know you're good to go. But even as an executive assistant, it goes beyond that. It also has to do with feeling, like what they see, what they feel about you, how well do they feel that you're confident in your role, how confident are they in the fact that you can handle this role. So all of these things are things that can help someone, an executive assistant within Nigeria, within Africa, build global competence and build global visibility or land clients, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chidera. Thank you. Um, so we actually have a couple more questions. Somebody says, okay, this is going to be the last question that we'll take because of time. Somebody says, how do you build your brand as an executive assistant?
Start somewhere. So if you're building your brand as an executive assistant, the truth is, first off, you need to be able to you need to be able to identify a platform where you want to be active on. For us executive assistants, we know LinkedIn, Instagram, and Upwork are like major platforms where we can be able to get clients for the role. So it's actually for you to build your brand, you need to be able to get a platform, identify a platform where you are active, and then start speaking up. Like, I know brand building is not something that happens immediately. It's something that takes time. I know of someone who started building her brand early this year. I know how jittery she was. I know how she was like she was not just getting everything right. She was just taking baby steps, trying, falling, but she was still building her brand. And today, I mean, we spoke. She landed a job a few months ago, but I spoke with her today, and she was even saying she got other clients. I mean, two other clients, and she was even asking me how she can go about the whole process, the onboarding process, and all. So actually, brand building has to do with first. The major thing is having a platform, identifying platforms where your clients are, and having a very active platform there. I mean, a very active brand there. Show up with content, show up, talk about your experiences, put out yourself as an EA, talk about your values, the values of executive assistant. When you attend events with your organizations, the ones that I mean, when you attend event, the ones that they allow you to post, there are some events you attend, not all events you attend that you are actually allowed to post, because there are some that are very strategic or should be very private. But things like summit, things like conferences, those kind of events, when you attend, show it, let people see, let people know you, talk about it. Just keep it's all about talking, showing yourself, writing, putting out content, writing proposals out there, entering people's DMs. I mean, when you see roles, when people post roles, go to their DMs also before you click on the link to apply. Go to their DMs, pitch yourself there, apply, connect with EAs, connect with fellow EAs, connect with recruiters, connect with CEOs of there was a time I was very heavy on this. Connect with CEOs from regions that you want to work with. If, for instance, you want to work with a South African CEOs, go on LinkedIn and connect more with South African CEOs in South Africa, founders in South Africa, co-founders in South Africa, people in the C-suite in South Africa. So from there, you get people, like, you get connected. There was a role, although I didn't get the role, but the way the person reached out to me was because I commented on a friend's post. Like a friend posted something about executive assistant, was actually in, I've forgotten the country. Oh, Kenya. Yes, it was actually in Kenya. So the person posted, and I made a comment, and she saw my comment and reached out to me. That was how it happened. So this is how you connect. This is how you build your brand. Just showing yourself out there, and then you become visible to clients. You become visible to people that you want to work with.
All right. Thank you so much, Chidera. This is a lot. You have dished out a lot. I know that, I mean, everyone is fully, I mean, we've taken in so much from you, and I'm really excited that, you made our time to join us today. It really means a lot to us at Boss Behind Boss, and also to the EA community, because we need to hear more of this from people, like you said, connecting with other EAs. You're able to, you find out that, okay, these are people that I can relate to, this is a community I belong to, and all of that, which is why we put together this summit. So thank you so much for making our time to join us today. We really, really appreciate it. And we look forward to having you in more programs. I hope that when we call upon you, you will answer us.
Thank you for having me, everyone. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Clara.
much. Yeah. So please, we've shared her LinkedIn profile in the chat, but that's going to be shared again. So if you have any questions, you want to, have more conversations with Chidera, please follow her on LinkedIn, connect her on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, and I'm sure her DM is always open. You can always reach out to her. She puts out amazing content that you can learn from. So please ensure to connect with her. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, before we move to our next speaker and next activity for the day, I would want to give you a brief about what's behind the boss, what we do, and how much we have grown as a brand. So I know most people don't really know what Boss Behind Boss is about. A friend probably shared the link to you for you to register. You probably saw a repost or something, and for the fact that you even clicked to register means a lot. It means that you really want to improve in your career as an executive assistant. It means that you already have the mindset of what we actually preach at Boss Behind the Boss. So for us at Boss Behind Boss, it's really not just it's really not just about just talking about the EA role. We actually do a lot more than that. We've created a place where executive assistants would feel seen, right? Because just like Chidera rightly said, you need a community that actually understands you. You need a community that know how to, that actually can relate to what you do as an executive assistant. So for us, our mission at Boss Behind Boss is to help you become a strategic partner, to build confidence, and also to give you global access. And how do we do this? We have a lot of things that we've done. We actually launched in March this year, so it's not up to 1 year actually. It's like less than 1 year, and we're already doing a lot of things. We've mentored over 100 EAs. That's about 128, and we also placed 42 executive assistants with founders and executives seeking for strategic partners. We have a global community of over 300, and that's on WhatsApp alone. We're not talking about LinkedIn and other platforms. So you can see that in less than 1 year, we've actually built a thriving ecosystem that is changing lives and careers across the globe. Beyond that, we've also built an ecosystem and created like practical tools, mentorship sections, and real access to opportunities. So, like I said previously, we've placed 42 assistants with executives and founders looking to work with them. And how do we do this? We actually have a mentorship program where we train EAs. We have a training academy and we have a mentorship program. So the mentorship program is really for people that are already executive assistants and just looking to scale. You want to do more as an executive assistant, trying to find your identity and all of those things. You can go for the mentorship section. But we have a training academy where we train people that are looking to go into the EA career, or you're an executive assistant, you're looking to also learn more things as an executive assistant that has to do with tools, and also in addition to your identity as an executive assistant. We've also created an executive assistant interview manual, and this really came from a place of, because we've interacted with a lot of executive assistants, we've seen that one of the major problems that executive assistants face is trying to gain gain access to opportunities. So you maybe have an interview, you're not sure how to go about it, or you don't know how to prepare for an interview. The executive assistant interview. No, the mentorship is it's not meant for only EAs in Africa. It's actually meant for everyone. We've had people from all over the world, so it's not just we've had people from Canada, America, Kenya join our mentorship section. So it's not just for Africans. And also, yeah, so the interview manual is really one of the best products we've had so far, because we'll call it like our secret weapon. It's something that has really helped a lot of our EAs, and the link is going to be in the chat. So I would definitely advise you to get a copy for yourself. We have toolkits and training academy, just like I've mentioned earlier, and also the mentorship section that teaches you identity shift, communication, and everything. Now, for this summit, we've actually made an exclusive offer for everybody that is here, and everything that I've mentioned that can help you scale your career as an executive assistant, build your identity as an executive assistant, even in terms of personal branding and all of that, is now on 50% off. So what that means is, as long as you are a participant in this summit, you get all these products for 50% off. As soon as this summit is over, the discount code expires. So the discount code will be in the chat. Please rush now and get anything that you think you want to be part of the mentorship section. Get that for yourself. You want to learn how to land roles and also excel during interviews. Get the interview manual. You want training and certification as an EA, register for the training academy, and also you need toolkit. Chidera spoke a lot about documentation. The EA toolkit has a lot of templates for you to use to excel as an EA. So ensure to get that for yourself. Again, don't forget, once the summit is over, the discount code expires. So please don't come asking us about discounts after the summit. You can only get that during the period of the summit. For us as Boss Behind the Boss, this is really a total transformation. So we're not just creating, we're actually creating a global community of executive assistants who are respected, valued, and recognized as strategic partners. So that's why we say you are the boss behind the boss, because you as an executive assistant, you need to see yourself as the boss, just like Chidera has mentioned. She has said a lot that really relates to what we do as an as boss behind the boss. You're not just an executive assistant. You need to place value on yourself for you to be recognized. So you cannot just, remain in the background and keep lamenting about how you're not seen, you're not valued, and all of that. So please ensure that you connect with us across all our social media platforms. The link will also be in the chat, and follow all that we do at Boss Behind the Boss. This is only the beginning. There's so much more to come, and we have a lot in store for you. Trust me. Thank you so much, everyone, and we're looking forward to connecting with all of you. Now we're moving over to our next speaker, and she's going to be talking about something that Chidera has mentioned, but she's going to shed more light on, and that is how to move from support to strategy as an executive assistant. So it's not just taking on tasks. I think every speaker on this platform today has actually mentioned it's not just taking on tasks. You need to be able to move from just support to strategy as an executive assistant. And our speaker for today is someone definition of energy, structure, and strategic leadership. She supports the CEO of an IT company, has experience spanning manufacturing, healthcare, edtech, and is CIPM certified. She leads EA Thrive, a thriving community empowering executive assistants and virtual assistants across the country. She mentors young professionals, speaks on leadership, and brings life to every stage purpose. Affectionately called the energy goddess, she brings clarity and confidence everywhere she goes. And for the next 15 minutes, she's going to be showing us exactly what stepping into strategy looks like. Please welcome Queen Claire Ogbonna. Hi, Queen. Hi. So lovely to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Clara. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending wherever you're joining us from today. I understand that we have a lot of people in the house that are not just Nigerians. So, I'm super excited to be here today, honestly. And thank you so much, Clara, for organizing this. I mean, this conversation is one that, having it before 2026 is such an an amazing thing, and just for us to also be able to plan ourselves, build ourselves more strategically, before the new year, and also plan or kind of like build up yourself how you want to be seen, or how you want to be represented, or how you want your value to be perceived come 2026. I just wanted to say one thing. No matter where you're joining us from today, whether Asia, Europe, North America, Africa, I just want you to know this, that the challenges you face as an executive assistant are more similar than they are different, actually. It could be different time zones. We could be in different time zones, different accents, different currencies, but the same questions keep showing up as EAs that we are. And that is, one could be, how do I grow in this role? Another could be, how do I stop, being overlooked? Another could be, how do I move from support to strategy? Another could be, how do I future-proof my career? Before I get carried away, I know Clara has already made an introduction. My name is Queen Claire Ogbonnaya, and I'm a strategic executive assistant, an operations professional, and the founder of EA Tribe. But most importantly, I am someone who deeply understands, what it means to walk behind power, to, also walk beside leadership, and also kind of like, walk often without recognition. So tonight is not just going to be about motivation. It's going to be a lot more about clarity, a lot more about truth, and a lot more, about direction. Because the thing that Clara used, beyond the desk is not just symbolic. It's something that is very, very urgent. First, I'm going to be taking the very first part, which is the global EA identity crisis. Now, let's start with honesty. The EA role is experiencing something that I call an identity crisis globally. In some regions, I love when Chidera, I think her name is Chidera, yeah, sorry, I'm actually using two screens here. Her name is Chidera when she mentioned glorified secretaries or glorified assistants. In some regions, EAs are still seen as glorified secretaries, are still seen as note takers, are seen as gatekeepers. In others, EAs are seen as chief of staff in disguise, operational leaders, decision partners. But many executive assistants are not stuck because they lack skills. They are stuck, because they are over-conditioned. Yeah, that's the word I'm going to use, because they are over-conditioned. Conditions to, say yes quickly to things, apologize unnecessarily, over-explain decisions when you even showcase that part of yourself that you can take decisions, you're proactive, you have to over-explain that decisions, equate silence with professionalism. Oh, I just want to be professional. I don't want to say something. I don't want to say a lot. I don't really know what they're talking about. So let me just be quiet and take minutes of the meeting. Equate, overwork with loyalty. You want to be loyal. So you're taking on extra hours. You're doing a lot of work without even being recognized. Most of us in this call are literally, in most organizations that we're working, we're literally doing a lot. We're actually not just doing EA job, because, of course, technically, EAs are seen as a career that cuts across different departments. So most times we find ourselves doing HR, project management, operation. You're acting as a CEO. You're doing a lot, and your role is just an EA. But when decisions are to be making, you're not even considered. So you equate that overwork with you're trying to be loyal to the company. You're trying to be loyal to your organization. So this conditioning, often starts early. It's just seen as just support, don't overstep, be grateful you're even close to leadership. But there's something I always say, that proximity without agency is a trap. And let me say this clearly. If you don't consciously shape your EA identity, this role is going to shrink you. I'm going to use the word shrink because that was something Chidera mentioned. Sorry, Chidera is the only speaker that I came in when she was speaking, so I'm going to be picking a lot more from what she mentioned. If you don't, consciously shape your EA identity, this role will shrink you. Globally, I've seen EAs who know the business better than some managers. I mean, when I started off my career, I started off as a traditional EA. I'm sorry, I'm going to be telling a lot of stories as I speak. Please pardon me. I started off as a very traditional EA, who did a lot of, just the typewriting kind of thing, the paper, you have a shelf, you document in files, files as a traditional EA. And then I moved further on, and then I realized that there was something called Google Suits. I found out that there was something called Zoho. I found out that there was something a lot more different than the typical physical work, environment that I've been exposed to. And then after I left that job, I had a conversation with Angela. She's an EA in the United States. We had a conversation online through Johnny CC my EA. I think most of us must have seen him on LinkedIn. He kind of like connected. He was doing something that he was connecting EAs globally, and then he connected me to Angela. And then I had a conversation with Angela, and then my entire mindset shifted when I had a conversation with her. Globally, like I mentioned, I see EAs who also hold institutional memory. EAs who understand political dynamic, because there's politics even in the corporate world, even in the organization that you work in. So even as an EA, you play office politics most of the time blindly without actually knowing that you're playing office politics. And then we also see EAs who anticipate problems before they happen. Yet, you do all the things I just listed, and yet you introduce yourself as just an assistant. Now, that is what I just want us to take away, that language matters. Identity matters. You cannot advocate strategically if you see yourself tactically. You cannot say that you're a strategic. I just came on this call to say, oh, I'm a strategic executive assistant. Why did I not just say I'm just an executive assistant? So you need to also advocate yourself strategically if you want to see yourself tactically. And the danger is this: the role is evolving faster than many EAs are. The role is evolving and it's not waiting for anybody. And that is why I said something. I said, I love the fact that Clara started this thing in 2025, ending of 2025, before we go into 2026, because the role is evolving. It's not waiting for anybody. So you have to get on the train. You have to hop on the train. So the first question is not, what skill do I need? The real question is, who am I becoming in this profession? This profession that I'm in already, who am I becoming? Because identity is what is going to drive how you show up on LinkedIn, just like Chidera mentioned when she talked about branding, when she talked about visibility. Identity is what is going to drive how you're going to show up on that LinkedIn. The nature, the kind of content you're going to push out, that identity is what is going to drive it. If you have a mentality of 2015, then your content is obviously going to speak to a 2015 EA. And people are not going to key into it because most of them has evolved. They're already thinking in 2026. So you're actually just going to be seen as somebody who is like, oh, this person is still laid back. And this same identity is going to drive how you speak. This same identity is going to drive how you negotiate in terms of your pay, in terms of your salary. Most times, some of my colleagues, I was having a conversation with a colleague, and she was telling me that she's still earning a particular amount of money that is quite lesser in terms of the cadre or the rank in which she is in the EA career. And I told her, I said, what is your identity? What is your value? How are you actually, portraying yourself to these executives or to this hiring team when you speak to them? What is the impact of the work you've done? I mean, we're going to get into that. Don't get confused in this conversation. But then I'm just trying to let you know that identity is also going to drive how you negotiate and how you're perceived. Even in the interview, when you're talking, they're perceiving, they're actually reading you, they're rating you, they're scaling you. Identity is what is also going to drive all these things. And let me say this to you guys. You cannot build a 2026 career with a 2015 mindset. You need to be in a 2026 mindset to actually build a 2026 career. Now, that is going to take me to the second part of this conversation, which is power, proximity, and executive psychology. Now, let's talk about something EAs understand instinctively, but we rarely talk about it, we rarely articulate it. Power is exhausting. Executives make hundreds of decisions daily. They carry out financial and reputational risk. Most of the times, they have to let go an employee, and the employee comes on LinkedIn and drag the company. They are going through all these things. It could be maybe one client comes and drags the company on social media and says, "Oh, I was scammed, this, that." So they go through a lot. They are constantly interrupted. They rarely get honest feedback. Most of the time, executives don't get honest feedback because nobody wants to step on their toes. Everything they are doing is good. So your executive does not need another task completed. They need mental space. And that's where you come in as an EA. A next level EA is someone that understands executive moods. You need to be, I know most times we say executive assistants are like mind readers. Trust me, you are a mind reader, because you're someone that you have to work with someone and you have to understand that person. So you also have to be able to understand what kind of mood is this person in. Is this person in a good mood? Is this person in a bad mood? Is this a good time to bring up this kind of conversation? That is you understanding this person. That is you reading this person's mood. That is emotional intelligence in a nutshell. A next level EA is someone who understands decision fatigue. A next level EA is someone who understands timing, because timing is everything in what you do. I mean, I know Chidera mentioned that as well. A next level EA is someone that understands political nuance. Like I said, office politics is one game that is non-negotiable for an executive assistant, because you're dealing with a lot of top bodies. You don't just manage calendars. You're managing energy, you're managing focus, and you're managing consequences as well. So let me say that here's a reframe. An EA is not just a gatekeeper. An EA is a clarity architect. You decide what gets attention as an EA. You're deciding what gets delayed as an EA. You're deciding what gets filtered. You're deciding what gets escalated, what gets to the executive. That is power, even though that is quiet. That is the power that you possess, even though, most of the time we're at the back. We're seen as, I love Clara's brand name, boss behind the boss. You are the boss behind the boss, because that is the gentle power that you're wielding as an executive assistant. Now, there's something I call the executive whisper principle. Before bringing anything to your executive, you need to ask yourself, one, is this the right time? This is what differentiates you from a random EA to a strategic EA. We hear the word strategic, and it feels like, is one very difficult or one very, difficult word to explain or difficult term to navigate. But in actual sense, 80% of us on this call, we're actually strategic executive assistants, but we just don't recognize that is what we're doing. And that is why summits like this exist, for you to come in and actually hear, EAs list out things that make you strategic, for you to understand that you actually play in this role. You're actually playing this role, but you're not just taking that value to yourself. You're still undermining what you do as an executive assistant. Secondly, another thing before you bring anything to your executive, you're asking is this the right framing? Is this my decision or theirs? What outcome does this affect? This is what I call strategic maturity. Executive assistants, you sit in a very dangerous place. Not dangerous because it's risky, but because it's close to power. You see how decisions are made a lot more of the time. You see how money moves. Most of us are up where we see, when our companies get grants, we see how our executives get, walk around getting grants. We see, the financial budget for the year. We see most of us are even, we assess payroll. Most of us even handle payrolls in our organizations. So we see how money moves. We see how influence works, because as executive assistant, we wield influence, both for external stakeholders and internal stakeholders. And we don't even understand this. Most of us don't understand the kind of influence that we wield as EAs, because it's the influence that you have that you're able to get a fellow employee to navigate a task, or to even delegate a task to a fellow employee, and they actually take up that task without complaining. It is your influence. It's your influence that you're able to hold on to relationships that are external stakeholders, clients, your executive friends, your stakeholders, investors. It is with your influence. Even the meetings, as little as the meetings that you strategically reschedule, and these other parties agree to it, that is influence at work. So, you're also able to see how leaders really think, how the executive board or the leadership board really think. And yet many EAs remain silent observers, even though you witness all this, instead of strategic partners or strategic participants. Now, here's what great EAs understand. One, executives don't need more help. They need less friction. Your real job is to reduce what I call cognitive load. Your real job is to filter the noise. I know I've said this previously. Your real job is to protect real decision energy. So you're not only just managing tasks, you are managing attention. And attention is currency, because that's what you're employed to do, to manage the attention, to manage the focus. What exactly is your executive dedicating their focus, their time to do at that time? That is that is part of your job. And attention is currency. I'll be taking another part of this, which is the EA career path for 2026. I see a lot of questions, and I'm going to take it once I'm done. I just don't want to get distracted. Now let's talk about the future. By 2026, relevance will come in from, international positioning. You will see clearer lanes. You would see strategic EA, which is, of course, decision facing. You would see operations EA, which is systems and scale. You would see founder side EA, which is chaos, structure, chief of staff pathway, portfolio / fractional EA. And here's the truth most people are not going to say. You cannot prepare for, all these lanes at once. You can't prepare for all these things at the same time. So it is important that you must choose where to deepen. Ask yourself, do I enjoy structure or ambiguity? Just like me. I find out that I thrive in chaos. Probably because at most of my career, the longer I've stayed has been in the startup ecosystem. And most of us that are in the startup ecosystem understand the chaos that comes with startup ecosystems. Startup ecosystems change decisions per second. So operations in the startup ecosystem is something that I enjoy. It's something that I'm very okay with. Some other people might not really do well with startup ecosystems because there is no structure. So you hear some EAs say that, they don't really do well with startups because there's no structure. Things move per second, things move through the needle. So they might not really do well in a startup ecosystem. So you also need to ask yourself, do I thrive in scale or speed? You also need to ask yourself, do I prefer people or process? You also need to ask yourself, do I want visibility or influence? But there is no wrong answer. But what I believe is there is danger in actually not choosing, because value in the future comes from depth, not just being available to anything. Anything, I'm okay with anything. Any particular role, I'm okay with just getting into it. And that's why you see some EAs are EAs/HR, some EAs are EAs/program manager, some EAs are EAs/operations. So some EAs just look for a particular, depth, and they just deepen. They just kind of like grow like depth. They kind of like grow like they kind of like deepen their experience in that particular area. Most EAs you see /programs manager, some EAs/HR, they just kind of like establish themselves in that scope, kind of like what's the English I'm looking for? Kind of like grow more in that, like have more depth in that area. Now, I'm going to also be talking on my journey, just like I said. I like to tell a lot of stories, what this role taught me. Now, let me take off the speaker mic for a minute. And, I didn't just start strategically. I became strategic. I've worked across manufacturing. I started my career in manufacturing. I actually started my career in HR. I started off as an HR assistant. And on the line, I got into HR officer. And I got another job in healthcare, and they were looking for an EA who was experienced in HR, and that was how I worked as an EA/HR. And then before I got into EdTech, and when I got into EdTech, I kind of like developed depth. I kind of like grew. There's a word I'm looking for and it's just not coming into my head. But what I'm just trying to say is I kind of like, instead of shrinking myself or just putting myself into just being an ES that had an HR experience, I kind of like opened up myself to, kind of absorbing more that came with the role. And then that was where I was exposed to a lot. I was exposed to managing programs. I was exposed to, the HR aspects of my role because I had HR experience. I was able to deal with people issues. I was able to deal with, managing people. It came in handy. I was able to advise my executive, most especially when it came to people management, most especially when it came to hiring. I was able to advise. And he could listen to me because why? I already had experience in HR. So even when the HR, we didn't have an HR on seat, I could take up that role confidently because I already grew depth in HR. I did my CIPM certification. I had my CIPM certification. So I already grew depth and experience in that HR. So taking up that space when we didn't have an HR came in handy for the company. It was like an asset to the company. So, and when I left EdTech, I moved into a technical writing space. And when I moved into technical writing space, it kind of like changed because I now had to grow my social media managing skill. Do not forget that when I was working in all these other places, I wasn't managing social media. In fact, in the technical writing space was where I grew my experience in managing social media. Because why? The executive I had to manage her social media, I had to respond to messages, I had to now go and train myself in managing social media. Now, that wasn't something I really grew in depth into, I didn't really go in depth on that, but I had to get, a fresh experience. I had to kind of like get like that basic experience because the role needed it. So one of the things I'm trying, why am I telling this story is because I need you to understand that as an EA, even though you are trying to cling into a particular part, you're either maybe saying you're an EA/Ops, that's operations, or you're an EA/programs manager, or you're an EA/HR, you also need to have depth. You need to be able to also adapt, when it comes to any executive that you're going to work with. In as much as the experience that you've already, had that depth in could come in handy for you when you are, working in that particular organization, but you also need to have depth. And then after working in the technical writing space, I moved into venture capital where I am currently right now, working with a company in the US. And that is where I currently am. And now I'm kind of like trying to expose myself into a lot more deeper, into financial, into the fintech part of, into the fintech space, just to expose myself and also get a few exposure to what is being done there. Now, what am I trying to say here? The part people don't glamorize a lot. Growth costs a lot. Before I was able to grow into a strategic partner, it cost me a lot. It cost me comfort. It cost me familiarity. It cost me relationships. Because most times we work with executives or we work with executives that don't actually let us step out of our comfort zone. They just like us where we are. There are some executives that like you to, take initiative. They like you to speak up in meetings. They like you to, talk. They want to hear you speak. But there are some executives that just want you to keep quiet. And most times, because we are EAs, we like to build loyalty. We like to kind of like build, we like to, we want to build that bond with our executive. We just stay quiet. We stay where they want to keep us. And that is why I said growth costs a lot. It will cost you comfort. It would cost you familiarity with a lot of people. It will cost you relationship, because sometimes you have to move from that place, wherever you are at that point, to another place for you to be able to actually grow into that as the other aspect of your career. So you need to understand that part, that when you're ready to move into that strategic partnership role, when you've defined your identity as an EA, you need to understand where you are currently serving. Is it somewhere that you can be able to, bring out these things? Is this somewhere that I can be able to, showcase all these things that you've had in this summit, and it's going to be absorbed, it's going to be taken in? Or do I have to move from here to somewhere else to be able to step into this shoe, or to be able to step into this other part of my career? This is also something you need to think about. You need to talk to yourself about, because it's something that we don't really talk about. We just we talk about, oh, executive. But we also need to understand that the kind of executive you're working with also determines if you're going to be a strategic EA, or you're just going to be a glorified secretary, or just a glorified assistant. So you also need to ask yourself that question. And also, I've worked in environments where expectations were very unclear. Startup ecosystems, that happens a lot. I've also worked in environments where boundaries were tested. You have to work round the clock. You have to be outside a lot of times. I've worked in an environment where I had to be outside a lot. I work Monday to Sunday. I don't even have time for my family. I have a son. My son is 3 years old. I don't even have time for my son. I don't have time for family, because I always have to be out there with the executive I was working with. There was no boundaries. There was nothing. I've also worked in environments where excellence was assumed and not acknowledged. Everything I was doing was just, oh, you're doing well, but then it is not being said out there. Even most of my colleagues were looking at me, and I hear Momo like, what's she actually doing? You don't even do anything. I can actually do your job. What are you even doing? But then I am actually working. I'm actually working my ass out. But then, because I am not getting that recognition, nobody knows what I'm doing, because I'm not getting that recognition, and I'm also not documenting my win outside. I am not talking about what I do on LinkedIn. So everybody assumes that I just sit down and cross my leg and carry my laptop and I'm not doing anything. Now, what did I learn? What I learned is that being the reliable one can also box you in. Being that one person that is reliable can also box you in. And also, growth requires discomfort, just like I previously mentioned. Leadership respects clarity more than silence. So in as much as you are as an EA, you also need to be able to be an EA that is, that brings clarity. An EA that can, I can remember one time, that was last year, I had an executive I was working with then, and then his friend, he's someone that was on my contact. He usually sees the kind of work my executive does. He was someone that understood that there was someone behind the kind of work my executive was doing, because my executive was running 3 businesses at the same time, and they were all moving fine. And then he reached out to me and he said, Queen Claire, please, I need you to help mentor my EA. I need my EA to move from being a tax doer to a strategic partner. Now, a lot of people would be wondering, like, what does this man mean? Even I'm sure what I told the EA, and I said, I'm sure that as you're sitting on this other end of this call, listening to me, you will be wondering that, but I'm good at what I do. Why is it that this man paid so much for you to teach me to move from a tax doer to a strategic partner? And I told her, I said, you need to understand that the kind of work that executives do, it is way beyond you just saying, oh, sir, I've scheduled the meeting. Oh, sir, I've delivered the message to this. Oh, sir, the meeting is for 2 p.m. It is way more than that. It's more about also talking to your executive. Most time when you see that executive has taken decisions that are going to affect the company, because do not forget that you're also at the key, you're also a staff. You see what is happening. You see even more than a lot more people see. You interact with the staff in the company. Even as remote workers, I know most of us might be working remotely. Most of us might be working physically. Most of us that are working remotely might say that, oh, we don't actually interact a lot with the staff in the company. And if you say that, then I'm going to tell you that you're actually not doing so well as an EA. Because even though you're remote, as a remote worker, you need to also have good communication with even with the staff in the company, even though you guys are remote. Because most of the time, you're also going to be working on things with them. You're following up with them on deliverables. You're following up with them with, different things. You're going into their DM. Hi, I didn't see you today on stand-up. What's going on? That's how you build, influence. And that's also how you know things that are happening in the company. So most times when your executive takes decisions, you also have to talk to your executive and say, oh, sir, ma, I don't mean to interfere. I have a few things I want to say. I don't know if you would like to hear it. And there is no time your executive is going to tell you no. The worst is that you're going to say it and the executive wouldn't take that feedback. And most times you might say it and you get fired. That's the worst that can happen, honestly, because it happened to me, yes. But then I always tell most EAs that understand the kind of executive you work with and understand how best to relate with that executive. But do not be a yes EA. Do not just be an EA that just takes in and you don't bring out, because that is what most executives need. And like I previously mentioned, I said, most times these executives, they don't get feedback. So when you're able to give them feedback, it shows boldness, it shows confidence. That's how you grow your confidence. That's how you actually make impact. You don't make impact by how many meetings you schedule per day. Yes, I know that counts, but that's not how you make impact. You make impact by how you're able to help your executive override some decisions most times. You make impact by how you're able to, help your executive make, navigate maybe a hiring mistake or navigate a deal that might have gone bad, because most of us as executive assistants, we have the gift of discernment. Most of us, that is what drove most of us into the EA career. One, we love service, we love servitude. Two, we have that gift of discernment. That is what drove most of us into being EAs. So you have that spirit of discernment. If you trust your spirit of discernment as an EA, with the fact that you're exposed to the business operations, that is why you have to get into the game. Do not just stand at the door. You have to get into it. Be in meetings. Do not just be in meetings. Also, if you can join some department, because I do it a lot. I mean, when I was working, when I was doing hybrid in the edtech space, most times if I don't have a lot that I'm doing, maybe my executive has traveled back to the UK, I go to different departments and I just go and help them. I tell them, please, do you have anything you're doing? I want to work with you people for 1 week. That's how you learn things that are happening in each department. That is the way that you can also go back and tell your executive, oh, I think in maybe customer service, they're actually they're having issues with the software, because I was having issue also trying to enter a client this. That is how you get information. That is a secret that I use. I tend to go to different departments and work with them. I just go and tell them, I say, do you need me to do anything for you people? I'm available. I don't have anything I'm doing. And then they let me in. And then I'm able to help them, do some things. And then from there, most times they don't let me do anything because they feel like, oh, I'm coming to spy. But I just sit with them and gist with them. And I am observing. I'm listening to their complaints. I'm listening to the gist that they are gisting with me, because they are also complaining under that gist. And that's how I'm able to take out things that I'm also able, because that's how you get into the business strategy. So I'm so sorry. I know I'm moving already from what I was talking about, but then, yeah. And just like I've also mentioned, I also learned that overworking doesn't equal value. Your value you can overwork for a company for 5 years, and when it's time for regularization, you still get fired. I worked for a company for 3 years and I still got fired. So being fired or being what's that English? There's a term that the HR professionals use. Is not just all about overworking yourself. It's not just all about trying to put energy everywhere. You have to be very strategic to know where does my value count, and that is where you project your energy into. Those are your focus areas. You need that. That is why you need to understand the business strategy, so you know where your key focus areas are. And one of my biggest lessons was this: if you don't define your value, people will define your limits. So you need to define your value. And my growth came when I stopped asking, how can I help more? And I started asking, how can I enable better decision? And that is why I gave you some of my strategies that I've been doing. Even in this current place that I'm working, that is a venture capital firm that I just recently started working, and it's with a white, my executive is a white, and it's a US company. And I'm also trying to understand culture. I'm also trying to understand how best to interact with a lot more of my colleagues. And then I understand that in Nigeria here, we do a lot of eye service. And with them there, they don't like eye service. They just like when you're very blunt. They love when you communicate. And here in Nigeria, most of our culture here in Nigeria is we don't communicate more. We kind of like, keep things on the low because we don't want to step on someone's toes. So we just keep things on the low. But for them, they actually love when you communicate with them. They love when you show up, authentically. They also love when, you stand, when you say you're going to deliver on something, you deliver on that thing, you just stand by your word. It kind of like builds that culture around, it builds that culture around our country. Because, before I got my job, when I had the discovery call, my executive was like, I've actually not worked with a Nigerian because I've heard so much that most Nigerians, they are not, they're very lackadaisical when it comes to working, and they don't show up when they say they're going to show up. And then the culture stuff, the SAMA thing, put it on the low. And I just smiled because it has been something I've been very used to, in as much as I've had some international trips when working with some executives, but I've actually not had that full-blown experience working with someone who is not an African. So when I had that conversation with my executive, I kind of like picked out most of the complaints he was making, and I just picked it up. And that was what I kind of like started avoiding when I was working with him. And also when communicating with the team, I kind of like make it open, very straight to the point. And also trying to understand their culture. How do they interact with me? Just basically just watching, mirroring every single person. So you also need to ask yourself, how can I enable better decision? That shift is what changed everything for me. Now I'm going to be moving to the other aspect because I'm going to be rounding up system, strategy, and business value. Now let's get practical. A strategic EA thinks in systems, not just tasks. You need to have systems for everything. Systems for meetings. What is your system for meetings? Document it. You need to have a system. You cannot say that, today I just wake up in the morning and I check what has my executive said I should schedule. I had a conversation with my executive yesterday, and I wake up in the morning and I wait till the time I'm supposed to resume from work, and that is when I schedule the meeting. And then tomorrow, your system is maybe later in the afternoon, whatever I'm supposed to schedule, I will schedule it. You need to define a system for your meetings, scheduling, rescheduling, cancellation of meetings. You need to have a system. Decision making, you also need to have a system. What is your system for decision making?
I'm sorry, hi, Queen.
Oh my God, Clara, did you say something?
Yes. I've actually been raising my hand, so I just wanted to mention that you should round.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. I understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, sorry, I just saw your hand raised on my other screen. I was focused on this screen. Apologies. So, I'll just be rounding up. Sorry. So, systems for decision making. Decision making is quite different. Decision making could be in terms of when your executive is not on seat, and then there's a decision that needs to be taken at that point. Decision making could be when you need to take a decision on a particular meeting, in a particular meeting that is clashing with another meeting. So decision makings are different. So you need to have a system for each decision you have to make that has to do with your role. You need to have a system for communication frameworks. How do you communicate with your executive? How do you communicate? Is it just through WhatsApp? Is it through call? You need to have a system for that. Delegation maps. You cannot do everything alone. You need to learn how to delegate. Even as EAs, we can delegate. You need to have a system for follow-ups as well. Ask yourself, if I'm unavailable for 2 weeks, what breaks? If you go and leave for 2 weeks, what breaks? If you're sick today and you call in, oh, emergency, I can't show up for work for 2 weeks, what breaks? You need to also ask yourself, what knowledge lives only in my head? That if I'm not here, the company cannot function if they don't call me to ask me that information. You need to ask yourself, where am I the bottleneck? You also have to ask yourself, what happens only because I remember it? You also need to ask, those are the questions you need to ask yourself. Your goal is not to be indispensable. Your goal is to scale, scalability. That is your goal. So burnout is not a badge. So you need to build systems that even when you're not in the organization, you could still, the organization can still thrive even in your absence. Then visibility, money, and positioning. Sorry. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is visibility, money, and progression. I'm wrapping up already. Many EAs are underpaid. And that is because and that's not because they are unskilled at all. It is because they are underpositioned. And I know Chidera mentioned it. Visibility is not just noise. Visibility is evidence. You cannot negotiate what you cannot articulate. So visibility is not bragging. It's business communication. So you need to start tracking. You need to track time saved for leadership. You need to track the processes that you've improved. You need to track the risks you've mitigated. You need to track your outcomes, outcomes of your influence. Track all these things. Speak, and when you're in, meetings or you're in interviews, speak in languages leaders understand. Speak efficiency. If you're in an interview, speak efficiency. That's your selling point. How would you be able to make that executive life easier? That is what you're going to be speaking on, because that's how you're going to be tell them that, oh, you're going to pay me 500,000 naira, and they're going to actually equal what you've said with the 500,000 naira. Speak in cost, speak in speed, speak in risk, speak in scale. Those are the languages you need to be speaking. And remember that closed mouths don't get promoted. Now I'm wrapping up. Before I wrap up, I just want you to pause and ask yourself, what version of EA am I outgrowing? We're moving into 2026. What version of EA are you outgrowing? Are you outgrowing the glorified secretary? Are you outgrowing a personal assistant? What aspect of your EA are you outgrowing? And what skill will make me undeniable? That is what questions I need you to ask yourself before moving into 2026. What environment deserves my next level? Remember, I mentioned this. What environment deserves your next level? Because you stepping into the strategic part of your career, will your current environment be able to take in that depth, or will they not be able to take in that depth? And what am I tolerating that I've outgrown as an EA? Now, this role is not small. It is strategic. It is powerful, and it is evolving. Okay. I'm closing. The executive assistant is no longer just behind the desk. We are behind the strategy, we are behind the clarity, and we are behind the leadership effectiveness. And the EAs who are going to thrive are not the ones waiting for permission. They are the ones that are bold enough to evolve. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. I see a lot of messages. I've not been able to check it. I'm just trying to check it right now. But thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Before Clara will throw me out. Thank
you so much, Queen. That was really powerful. Like Elizabeth said, you spoke from your heart. We could feel it. We could feel everything, every bit of what you said. Thank you so much. It was really deep. Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much, Queen. Now we'll take questions. If you have questions for Queen, please share. We have a few minutes before we round up. So please share your questions. I know everyone is really pumped up. Like Queen has really pumped every assistant on this call up. So please share your questions, and Queen will take questions now. For the next 1 minute, we'll take questions. So we'll just give 1 minute for people to leave their questions clear. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for. I hope when we call you next time, you will come.
Yeah, anytime. Anytime it has to do with EAs, my energy is always full.
I know. So somebody has a question. She said, my question is, how do I get remote jobs as an executive assistant?
Okay, so the first thing is, I know I posted something earlier this year that I got into RA Africa. I'm also going to make a post on that during this week. I'll make a post on that because they're actually taking in their cohort 2. So what they do, Aria Africa, they just launched it. Dima Consulting just launched it. So what she does is she takes in maybe aspiring EAs or you're already experienced, and then she gives you a period of training because she gives you international clients, not clients in Africa, international clients. So she kind of like gives like an 8 weeks training where she kind of like helps you build the skill that you need to be able to work with these people. And then she then after the training, she helps you she helps pair you up with an executive or helps pair you up with a client. And it's free. It's free. You're not paying anything. But the only thing is you would be under her consulting firm. And then another way is I know people get remote jobs through Upwork as well. And I know Upwork takes points. I know it's not free. I know you have to like get I've never gotten any remote gig from Upwork. Most of the remote gigs I've gotten is through LinkedIn. And another way for you to also get remote jobs is also on LinkedIn. I've seen a lot of people post about remote jobs on LinkedIn. And in as much as I know most of the issue when I was applying then, I know that most of them, when you click on the link, they will tell you have to join a group and all that. But then I also see a lot of CEOs post about remote gigs on LinkedIn. I see a lot on LinkedIn. So another way is for you to apply. First is tailor your CV and make sure that your CV spotlights the skills and the tools that is needed to thrive as a remote worker. Because it's a lot to be a remote worker. I've done remote work and I kid you not, it is very, very tasking. So you have to be somebody that you're ready to take up a remote job. You're 100% ready to take up a remote job and to be able to allocate those hours of work that is going to be needed. So first, make sure that your CV is revamped and it shows the skills and the tools that is needed for you to thrive as a remote assistant, and also showcase some of your experiences as well on your CV, and then apply. When you apply, even after applying, reach out to the recruiter or to the CEO on LinkedIn. That's what I do. Even after applying, I reach out to the CEO on LinkedIn. But then most of the very effective way I would recommend is through this Aria Africa. I'll do the post, I'll drop the link. For people that would love to be part of her cohort 2, they can also try to be part of the cohort 2 and be able to also partake in that as well. And another thing EA Tribe does, we also help. Just like Clara also mentioned that she also helps EAs land jobs as well. EA Tribe also does that, and most of the times on EA Tribe we post the job on the EA Tribe on LinkedIn. We post it on the community. We also post it on LinkedIn as well. We open it up for everybody. So just connect more with people that you feel people that are your target audience, CEOs, founders, people that you want to connect with. And then when you see all these roles, make sure your CV is revamped and then apply for them. And also this Aria Africa that I'm going to put up as well, you can also be part of their cohort to go through the training phase, and they are also going to be able to also help you land remote. That Aria Africa is only for remote assistants. I'm part of them. I was part of their cohort 1. It's only for remote assistants, and you're able to get gigs with international clients. So those are a few ways. You can check her out on LinkedIn, Denmark Consulting, and check her out as well. I think the post is there. You can click on the link, and that's some of the hacks that I have.
All right, thank you so much, Queen. That was really, really detailed. We have some questions here, but we have very limited time, so
I'll just
leave Queen, LinkedIn handle on the chat, so you can connect with her on LinkedIn. Send her a DM, disturb her very well. She'll be more than happy to answer all the questions you have. So please ensure that you connect with Queen on LinkedIn, and definitely there's so much to learn from her. Just like she has mentioned, the EA Tribe does so much in the EA space as well. So please connect with them and ensure that I'm sure you definitely learn something from there. Thank you so much, Queen. Really appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to us. We've learned so much. The energy in the room is fueled. Thank you so much. Really appreciate, and we're looking forward to having you next time. Thank you.
much.
All right. All right. So moving on, we're actually going to play Jodi's video. I see a question from someone. Yes, we are going to hear from Jodi in a few minutes. But before then, remember I mentioned at the beginning that we are going to have a giveaway section. So now we're having our giveaway section, and I also mentioned that if you want to be part of this giveaway, you have to be very active. So we're going to give out a couple of things and products to people on the call. We're going to do that by spinning the wheel. So randomly we'll pick 5 people, and then you'll be our winners for this giveaway. But before we go ahead with that, I just wanted to mention that the discount code that we gave earlier has been extended to Monday 9 p.m. because we see a lot of people are actually already purchasing these products and wanted to extend it to help you have more time. So please ensure you get something for yourself that's going to help you scale and grow in your EA career in 2026. Very, very important. All right, now we're going to spin the wheel and pick our winners for the giveaway. All right, our first winner is Immaculate Ifenyua. Congratulations. Let's pick one more person. We're actually going to be picking 5 people, so don't worry. I'm sure you get a lot of people. Congratulations, Immaculate. Who's the next person? Elizabeth, congratulations. I mean, she's been active from like the beginning. I was really rooting for you to win. Congratulations. Yeah, next person, please. Jviva, congratulations. Congratulations. I mean, we can tell the people that looks like this video we actually know that have been very, very active. Congratulations. Our next winner, Jasmine Kelly, congratulations. Yay. And then our final winner for today, Florence. Congratulations, Florence. So the winners of the giveaway are going to actually have free mentorship section and access to all the products from Boss Behind the Boss completely free. So congratulations. And yeah, we're moving over to the next session. So please reach out to Amanda. She's going to leave her contacts in the chat. So please just reach out to her, and we'll take it up from there. So congratulations to everyone. Like we said, we're really all about, at Boss Behind the Boss, we're really all about elevating and empowering executive assistants. Anything that has to do with elevating and empowering executive assistants, count us in. Okay, now we are going back to hearing from Jodi. I know a lot of people wants to hear from her because there's a lot that she actually has to tell us. So let's just hear from her. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to you. Before we dive in, I want to say something to Clara, which is simply thank you. Pulling together a summit like this, that's leadership. That's true vision, and that's exactly the kind of strategic thinking we are celebrating today. Clara, I am excited to see where you take this community next, and I have no doubt about the fact that you will be running these virtual summits for many more years to come. This will be the first of many, I'm sure. Now, let's talk about why we're all here. Today is about connection. It's about learning, and it's about seeing what's possible, not just in your role, but in yourself. And my hope is that something you hear today gives you a small, tiny nudge in how you see your own value. Because that little nudge, that's where everything starts to change. I help assistants turn quiet work into visible, outcome-driven impact. I keep priorities moving and decision-making smooth. I spot the problems before they even happen, and I free up C-suite leadership to focus where it counts and to drive the businesses forward. My name is Jodie Mears. I'm a C-suite executive assistant in London, a LinkedIn top voice, a speaker and mentor. But more importantly, I'm a mum of 3. I do not have a degree, and I've been divorced. I've rebuilt my life more than once, and yes, I've also used food banks when all the money ran out. And you know what someone said to me once? You don't look like you're struggling. Perception and assumptions are rife. And although they're wrong, they're very, very common. And I'm telling you this because my path was not planned out at all. It was not linear. I had no idea what I wanted to do in my life. And for a long time, I thought that meant I didn't belong in the rooms I was working in. I was unfocused. But here's the thing. And every Jaffa orange up so the leaf was pointing upwards and helping customers and crushing up the empty boxes and keeping everything topped up, ready to sell. Sounds very simple, right? But it taught me something I use every single day. Detail matters. Presentation matters. How something is seen affects how it's valued. Even oranges sell faster when they're presented well. I didn't know it then, but I was learning the foundations of everything I do now. That small intentional actions create bigger outcomes. And that's what we do as assistants, right? We arrange the oranges. We create the conditions for success. After school, at high school stage, I studied hairdressing and beauty therapy for 3 years full time, not because I loved it, but because someone javelin was my sport, but I wanted to be with all the cool girls and they weren't chosen for athletics, so I felt like the outsider. And I chose to hang around the fish and chip shop on a Friday after school and did nothing but chat and cause mischief over training. So I chose a different path that I had no idea I was actually choosing at the time because life had different plans for me. I worked then as a beauty therapist and then also managed a spa. Then a big house move meant I had to start all over again. I took temporary work at temporary agencies, and that meant I could start working immediately, that afternoon, in fact, going on an assignment. But I was going from place to place, stuffing envelopes, rearranging stock rooms, to working on receptions, to then coordinating bids and proposals as well, which I absolutely loved. And slowly, quietly, I found my way into the administrative department, and eventually I found my voice. But here's the moment that changed everything. Shamefully, it was only in 2018 I finally admitted to myself, this is a career, this is what I'm good at, this is what I like doing, and my proper job is it. Since I have pushed myself beyond I thought I know you haven't, you're new to it. Today, fast forward to today, I have been in this role now for over 23 years. I support global leadership. I speak on stages. I mentor assistants worldwide. And this year I was named one of the top 60 digital women to watch and a finalist for the Digital Woman of the Year. And I'm still an executive assistant. I chose this and I'm proud of this. Now, did you notice how I introduced myself at the start? Go back to the beginning. How did I open? I didn't start with my job title or even my name. I didn't say who I work for. I started with what I bring. I help assistants turn quiet work into visible outcomes. I keep priorities moving and decision-making smooth. I spot the problems before they even happen, and I free up C-suite leadership to focus where it counts and to drive the businesses forward. Then I said my name, then at my title. That was intentional, because your job is what you do, but your personal brand is how people remember you for doing it. When you lead with who you are and the value you bring instead of your title, you show confidence. You're showing emotional intelligence and you're showing presence. You show that you understand your contribution. I have a simple framework that can help you get started. And you can craft your own on paper, or you can do it in the chat and you can help each other's value statement. I call it your unique value proposition. It's very simple. By how? I help assistants turn quiet work into visible impact. I help C-suite leaders stay focused by keeping priorities moving and spotting the problems early. That's it. 3 parts: who you serve, what outcome you create, and how you make that happen. Try it for yourself. Fill in those blanks. And when you introduce yourself next time, lead with that. Not your job title. That can be a mask. Your value. That's you. And that understanding, that's what takes you beyond the desk. And this summit is called Beyond the Desk. And I love that, because we're not talking about leaving the role in a beyond statement. We're talking about expanding it, about being seen, not behind leadership, but beside them. About recognizing ourselves, our strategic thinking, our problem solving, our influence before we wait for someone else to notice. So as we begin today, stay open, listen for the story or the sentence that speaks to you. Let yourself be inspired by what's possible, not just for the role, but for you. I'm Jodie Mears, and I am honoured to open this space with you. Let's learn something new. Let's connect with each other and let's grow together.
Thank you so much, Jodie, even if she's not here. And I mean, we are still able to learn from her. And just like she said, network, learn, and grow. So the last part of our activity for today is actually to network with one another. So share your LinkedIn profile in the chat and connect with one another. We've gotten so much value for today from different speakers. We had at least 5 speakers speak to us today about different things. And if you have not gotten any, I'm sure there's definitely no way you've not gotten something from this summit. So while we are connecting with each other, we also like to get your feedback on how the summit went for you and what we can do better for the next edition. Please fill the feedback form in the chat, and would really love to hear how we can improve the summit. Once again, apologies for the glitch at the beginning. We actually didn't expect over 100 people to join in less than 2 minutes, and the glitch happened, but we're able to stream on YouTube, and the replay is definitely going to be available, and when that is available, it's also going to be shared with everyone. So thank you so much for joining in. Connect with one another, or connect with each other on in the chat, and also don't forget to give us your feedback on what you think about the summit. It's very, very important to us, because we want to always do better, want to ensure that we are serving you better, want to ensure that we give you value. So please fill the feedback form. It's also going to be shared in the group, on the WhatsApp group, and we're looking forward to hearing for you. Thank you so much. If you have, I really cannot wait to see feedbacks and reviews from the summit, good or bad. Please share with us. It's very, very important to us. I'm sure you've learned something today that will help you reimagine your EA career for 2026. I'm looking forward to having excellent strategic partners in 2026, not just an assistant, but remember, you're the boss behind the boss. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you next year. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. All right. Yeah, before we totally round up, I just wanted to, spotlight a few people. So if you have something that you want to share with us, I know we are, way past the time that we mentioned, but if you have something that you want to share with us, please go ahead and share, and just raise your hands and unmute and share with us, please. Anything at all, anything that you really want to share with other assistants, something you've learned, anything at all, please go ahead and share. Thank you. All right. I think there's nothing more from everyone, so we'll just end the summit now. Thank you so much, everyone. And we're definitely going to host this again next year, 2026, and it's definitely going to be way better. We're looking forward to having everyone back here 2026. Happy New Year in advance. Thank you so much, and bye, everyone.